Okay, 7 o'clock. Call the meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Mr. Kenner.
President McCarthy.
Present.
Dr. Carpenter.
Present.
Ms. Loalbo.
Here.
Mr. Matlin.
Present.
Mr. Forbeck.
Present.
Ms. Provenza. You're muted, Sylvia.
Wave your hand.
Sylvia, go ahead.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Mr. Sacevich.
Hi.
Okay, do we
He's
have any
muted.
registered?
You're unmuted, Ray. Go ahead.
I'm here. Oh, here I am. I was having a little technical difficulty. Sorry.
Do we have any registered comments from the public?
No registered comments.
Okay, then let's move to reports or any correspondence do you have, Mr. Kenna?
Well, wait, are you going to let other comments from the public on agenda items?
Oh, well, we can do that now too. You want, are there any other comments from the public at this time?
If there's comments, please hit the raise hand button.
I see 1, 2.
Two. So we'll start with, it's Aaron actually emailed me earlier, so I think it's going to be Aaron.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hey, my name is Erin Palermo. I'm from up at 860 First Street. I just want to talk tonight about firework and firecracker use in the neighborhood. It is kind of a tense topic, so I want to be rational and not start a neighbor war. But I just wanted to say a few things about the fireworks. Specifically, ever since they were legalized in PA, they are pretty much being treated like they're legal everywhere, even though the state law says you have to be at least 150 feet away from any occupied structure. They're loud for miles. They wake up babies and shift workers, and they terrify pets and war veterans. They cause strain and resentment between neighbors, and some people absolutely love them and some hate them, but if one person sets off fireworks in the neighborhood, no one else has a choice about hearing them or cleaning up after them. Verona is a former coal town, and we've got tightly spaced old wood houses. I had just talked to the police chief outside my house on Saturday afternoon about the risk of a house fire from fireworks and what limits could be set. And I think most of us who live here know what happened on Saturday. So, like, imagine if instead of setting off fireworks, I stood outside my house screaming for 2 hours, throwing flaming trash into the street and all the surrounding yards. I'd probably be cited for reckless endangerment or disturbing the peace. And if I did it every decent night of the summer, most of my neighbors would probably be cool with me getting arrested, right? Change the scenario to fireworks, and when neighbors complain, we're called uptight or for ruining other people's fun. I really don't understand how that's different other than packaging, but it seems to be the perception. I get that it's probably irritating to feel like someone's trying to ruin your fun if you don't share concerns like, sleeping babies or terrified pets or even worry about your house fire. But I don't think that we have a whole lot of problem in the neighborhood with people worrying about fireworks on holidays. But when it's like every nice day of the summer, it's really just causing a lot of discord in the neighborhood. And if we could just have some way to support the state laws about safety and distance, that would be absolutely wonderful. But it is making for some tension in the neighborhoods.
May I ask what happened on Saturday? Did you say it was Saturday or Sunday?
It was it Sunday? I think it was Sunday. There was a house fire where a fire wire caught fire to the house behind mine.
Okay, I didn't know nothing about that. I will talk to the chief in the morning. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It wasn't a huge fire, but the timing kind of was unfortunate in that it supported my concerns as well as being a potential huge tragedy for my neighbor. But it was something that did happen that kind of illustrated exactly what I was just talking about.
I will look into that tomorrow morning when the chief's on.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'd like to address that as well, just to say that we did try to institute a fireworks ordinance, but my understanding, as you said, Aaron, it's basically a state law, but the 150 feet is the main thing that we can enforce. There's not much else that we can enforce. So this would be a police matter to ask the police to actually enforce the ordinance and the state law that says you have to not be within 150 feet of any structure.
Yeah, I don't know if education would help, that people don't know that is still part of the law. I mean, I suspect a fair amount of it is people just don't care. But I don't know if anything more can be done to educate people to try to.
Okay, I'll try to maybe put together a short article for the newsletter about what the basic guidelines and state laws are having to do with fireworks.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Who's next, Jerry? Thank you.
Stephanie.
Next will be Stephanie Garibay.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Hi, all. So I attended the farmers market meeting with the Allegheny Health Department, and I sent majority of you what I kind of gathered from that meeting. Basically, maintaining the social distancing and just rearranging the market into a one-way exit and entrance, and kind of designating spots on the field. I know, Janet, you had mentioned something about using whatever RAA uses, and I was at ACE and saw that there was athletic field paint to go on. So I think that if we rearrange the market so it's one way, have a designated exit and entrance. I did talk with Print and Copy Center about COVID signs to put around, reminding people of social distancing, wearing the mask, and those things. I'm confident that I can get all this set up and arranged by the time we need to open next Thursday, when it normally does open. But I want to get the go ahead and any thoughts from you guys.
When are you set to open, Stephanie?
The first Thursday of June. So a week from Thursday.
The 4th. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Stephanie, will you have the signs by then?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Do you need the road crews to put anything to help you in any way?
If we have any orange cones just to set up a designated exit and entrance, that would be helpful. Otherwise, I'll get the signs and things that we need for the signs and just place them in the park as needed.
Jerry, can we get the road crew to put some cones out for Stephanie for next Thursday? You're muted.
Can't hear you, Jerry.
All right, I couldn't get it to unmute. Stephanie, what time are you setting up?
So we generally set up around noon.
Around noon, yeah. So I'll let AJ know. He'll be there.
Okay.
He's got cones down there you can definitely use. I'll let AJ know that that you'll be down there around noon to set up.
Okay, perfect. And just one more thing. May I bill the borough for the signs that we need for the park? Like have Print Copy send that bill to you guys.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I don't know who else would pay. Yeah, we definitely should. We'll pay it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'll do that, and I'll send you guys some, an email of what I'll send to the vendors and go from there.
Hang on, Stephanie. Mike, did you have a question?
Yeah, real quick question, Stephanie. Like you mentioned, like for masks, are people going to be required to wear a mask, and how would that be enforced, or would you be able to reject people?
So they are recommended by the Allegheny Health Department. Vendors are required to wear them. I guess I shouldn't say required, recommended. So my understanding is it's not a law, and people are going to be encouraged to wear their masks, and I will have the vendors be the ones required to wear their masks. But other than that, I mean, other than putting up the signs and telling them, I guess we could turn people away, but I highly doubt that's going to be an issue. I don't know. What would you like to do?
I would put in my 2 cents. I don't really want to have the police having to police people with masks.
No, I agree with that, and I think it should be.
I think you need to just ask them to place a mask on if that's what the county health department asked.
Why don't we just put up some signs that says masks are highly recommended and just let people police themselves? I think for the most part people are.
Yeah.
But the people that aren't are probably going to be confrontational about it, and I don't think it's necessary for our police to get into a confrontation over a mask. That's my 2 cents.
I think people will take care of themselves with this.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. So that's what
about
print and copy will put on the signs about wearing a mask and, keep the 6 feet, whatever it is, and then correct people will police themselves. And everybody who's ever come to my shop has been wearing a mask, so I don't foresee them having a problem. And then you're right, for those that don't, is it worth the
confrontation?
Right.
What about the vendors?
Yeah, the vendors will have to wear a mask unless, they can't for whatever health reasons. But vendors will be asked to wear masks. And that's being asked of them all around the board for all the markets. So it wouldn't be just us.
How many vendors do we have right now?
So far, I have a total of 10 with some other outlying vendors who just aren't sure what's going to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Stephanie, did you say you were something about hand sanitizer or water?
Oh, yeah. Well, and I was going to leave that up to you guys. There are options for getting a hand sanitizing station or a portable wash station. The vendors are going to be asked to have hand sanitizer on hand. I know that that's kind of a product that isn't readily available at this time, but that was just a suggestion. And not an actual requirement or recommendation. It was just kind of like, if you can get one, have one. I think what we'll do is just keep, not that anybody really uses the borough building bathrooms, but keep that just for vendor use only and no public. I think that's what they were saying they were doing for their restrooms. But other than that,
if someone from the public needs to use the bathroom, I think they are able to go into the borough building and use the bathroom. Hasn't that always been the case?
Yeah, I was just making a suggestion that Allegheny Health Department suggested, that just the vendors use the restrooms and then, try to limit the amount of people that are going into whatever building you're using.
I think we limit it to the vendors at this time.
Yeah.
Do you think will the health department be inspecting this? You think, since it's
Yes, the health department already does inspect us.
correct? I mean, yeah.
So they will be, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So it's just best to, I think, whatever we can follow, and
That's what I was getting to. Thank you.
yeah.
See how it goes, and then if we need, we can make adjustments.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, well, I'll email the vendors and we'll get it a go for the first week of June.
We'll see you down there.
Okay.
All
thank
right.
you.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Stephanie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Thanks, Stephanie.
All right, we have Joey Warren. And then that looks like it's it.
Okay.
Where's he at? Okay, go ahead, Joey.
Thank you, Jerry. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Joey Warren from Vogel's Lane. Good evening. I had two things I wanted to mention. The first is a suggestion. There's been two recent occurrences where at the intersection of Athletic and Vogel's Lane, there have been vehicles that have crossed going in both directions where there's no stop sign for any of the four parts of the road where they intersect. I'd like to make a suggestion that there be stop signs set up there. Most recently, there were dirt bikes or off-road vehicles, or however you want to say it, that were racing from Athletic to Cribs, turning around and racing right back. And the weekend before, late in the evening, there were people going from 2nd Street to the end of Vogel's at the end of the stretch. And they were just going through it. And it doesn't seem fast when it's 20 to 25 miles an hour, which is the speed limit, but just not stopping at that intersection is not safe. So if I could make a suggestion that the committee's council president take a look at that intersection for either a 4-way stop or a 2-way stop. I know it's almost out of school season, students aren't in session, but I know that that's also where a lot of kids walk as a shortcut to get to the bus stop in the morning. So I think just a stop in general will help a lot of that confusion, because as it is right now, if 4 cars were to hit at one time in the middle, I don't know whose fault it is, but there needs to be signing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
What's
you.
the other, Joey?
The second piece was the paving on 2nd Avenue looks wonderful. I appreciate that being paved. It looks, rides a lot better as well. My question is, for now that the road is done, I didn't know when the portalet will be removed and when we'll have the property owners be doing the landscaping from the curb to the sidewalk and on the other side of the sidewalk where the gas meters are and the signage. I understand from a meeting a couple of workshops ago, I believe that there is a split between Penn Hills and also Verona. And if it's not us, I would just ask that you please be a good neighbor with Penn Hills and see if they could help us with monitoring that to make sure a lot of the grass is overgrown. And I was just curious about the timeline for the finishing of that, along with the paving of the curbs, because I know some of it was temporary. Thank you.
Okay. We'll check with Jerry. You want to check with Matt on that?
Yeah, I will. I'll touch base with Matt in the morning and see if I can get a timeline.
Okay.
And President, one more thing, actually. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Were there any remaining LED lights to be installed in our municipality, or are those all complete?
I don't know that for sure.
No, they're not complete.
I don't believe they are. Duquesne Light does it at their schedule.
Okay. I had talked a couple months ago about asking about the intersection with the island being repainted, with it being repaved. I know there's a bus stop right across the way on Wildwood. There were 3 light posts. I suggest that maybe we could allocate our LED to be assigned to if it's a matter of budget, or if Duquesne could work with Penn Hills. I know that the mayor was asking somebody back in February, January about that. But if that's something that could be addressed, I think it'd be better if it could be lit with LEDs rather than the ones that are up currently. Thank you.
Okay.
Joe, if you remember, like you said, I did talk to Scott, the borough manager in Penn Hills, on that. He took all the information down, and it just seemed like once this virus came, everything stopped with putting those lights up for whatever reason. Is he gone?
Yeah, he's off, Dave.
Oh, okay.
Okay. No more comments?
No, I don't have anybody else.
Okay.
So moving on to my stuff.
Move to your stuff.
The only thing I have, well, I have a couple things. So first of all would be, we would need to pass the meeting minutes from the May council meeting, business meeting.
Move. Minutes be passed. Be approved.
I have a motion on the floor by Mr. Forbeck to pass the minutes.
Second.
Second by Mr. Suchovich. Are there any questions? Not being any questions, all those in favor say aye.
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 Are there no no's? Motion passed.
Okay, I just have a couple things, just updates, and then there's some stuff that I have, but I think the committee heads are going to talk about stuff, so I'm not going to take everything from anybody. Just a reminder, Election Day is coming up. All voting will take place in the Borough Building. We will be moving all of the queues out of the way. It's all going to be at the Borough Building, and we're going to ask everybody that they keep the social distancing, and it's not going to be the computer system this time. It's going to be a paper ballot, like a Scantron, that you fill in the bubbles and they scan it. So that'll happen. That's coming up. So just to keep in mind, if you vote somewhere besides the Borough Building this election day, you were voting at the Borough Building. It was brought to my attention today, the Center Avenue, the repair work at the top of, right by that boulevard, that's developed a little bit of a dip. It seems like it sunk down a little bit. Matt and AJ met there today and ran a line and determined that it is in fact dipping down pretty dramatically. So AJ is going to reach out to Felino and let him know and get that fixed as soon as possible. 2nd Street paving is complete, as many of you probably know. We're still waiting on, Pampina's going to do the concrete work down on Wildwood. That's still coming. The first portion of 2nd Street is done. I think that there might be a little bit of curb work and a little bit of finishing work to do. We're going to paint the lines. Matt is actually going to find out. I know Center Avenue lines were on that list that we gave to the streets department. Matt's reaching out to see if we hire a company to do quick dry painting. What the price would be to do both Center and 2nd to get it done. That way we don't have drying time issues, and we can free that up from the streets department. So I'll keep everybody up to date with that, or Matt will. The First Street bidding is on its way. We're getting there. It looks like it might actually come in a little bit less than what we anticipated. There's not as much sidewalk work to do. He told me how many handicap ramps are included in the bid, and I can't remember the number off the top of my head. It was more than I thought it would be. But he did all the measurements, and he's getting the bid together to go from, I believe, north all the way to the dead end. The bricks will all be pulled up, removed, and like they did on 2nd, and then paved. And then from south to the dead end, they're going to mill that and repave that. So that's moving forward. And then we've also discussed, Matt and I, about trying to get a price to do the second half of 2nd. That perhaps, because we've got the liquid fuels money, and PennDOT okayed us using liquid fuels money for that project, that perhaps we can try to get 2nd done this year as well. But what we went back and forth a little bit, and what we want to do is he's waiting for an answer back from PennDOT regarding the First Street grant. Whenever we first applied for that grant and it was given to us, the match was 15%. And that was based on a bill that was passed for that year. Well, that's expired. So now, since the grant hasn't actually moved forward because of the whole process of getting it, by, I think, December 31st of 19, there's a possibility our local match is going to be 30% instead of 15. So it could go from about a $60,000 match to a $120,000 match. So before we get too far ahead of ourselves with 2nd, we're trying to get an answer from Pennsylvania whether or not we're going to have to put up 60 or 120,000 for First Street. Either way, we have the money, but I don't know that we want to do 2nd and $120,000 match in 1 year. So we want to wait till that answer comes back before we get any further on 2nd. And if we can't do 2nd this year, then we'll just do it next year like we had originally planned. And then I think, Dave Matlin, were you going to talk about the meeting we had with the streets department?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, that was, I was going to talk about it if you didn't.
Yeah, and then, so I'll let you do that. And then Mike, you're doing the same thing, right? With the police department? All right, so then I don't need to do anything else. That's all I have.
Okay. The only thing I have is I received a letter in an email from the RAA, excuse me, about the locks. Janet, you and I have talked about that. I've talked with Jerry. I don't know if you've found anything out, or if you're, I know we don't want to get a lot of keys out, and that's been an issue, so that there's not a bunch of keys wandering around the borough with that. So as soon as we figure out what we're going to do with that, then I will give them an answer, or you, excuse me, or you can give them an answer about the key situation. Okay, that's all I have. Mr. Mayor.
I have a few things that actually came up also. On the Center Avenue project, I talked to Matt, or I'm sorry, I talked to Matt and Dave. There is definitely a hump there, so Matt must have got in touch with you, Jerry, you and AJ. That was brought up to me over the weekend, and there is a dip as you go down. And on the paving, I brought this up last year, the Children's Center. There's probably about 50 yards of borough property there. That road is chewed up bad. They called me today and asked me if we were going to pave it this year, because I told them we had that SOAR project and we weren't doing no paving other than that project. So I would really, like you guys to consider paving that part of the Children's Center, which is owned by the borough. That's the borough road. And Jerry, in the meantime, or Dave, could you contact street department? There's holes down there that need to be patched again.
Yeah, I'll talk to AJ tomorrow.
Dave, what road are you talking about again?
The Children's Center, going into the Children's Center.
Oh, the
across
Riverview
the tracks.
Yeah, down off.
Yeah, Riverview.
Yeah.
Right at the more tires.
Okay, just the road going in. Okay.
Yeah, we own up to where it goes onto their property. The other thing too, yesterday the Memorial Day parade was, Memorial Day ceremony was very nice, and I'd like to thank Rhoda Wharf and especially Mr. Frank Santucci and all the veterans that were there, and to honor that day was very nice. There was a nice crowd of people there. Graduation day, they're supposed to have a parade of 99 cars from Oakmont to Verona and back to Oakmont. They'll come through the town and make a right on south and go past the police station, up center, and go back on the boulevard. I believe the chief told me it was on the 9th. I'm not sure. June 9th. And they also put up the street department, and Dave, I don't know if you was going to bring this up, the flags of the kids' pictures. Both Verona and Oakmont put them up. The school apparently paid for them, to put them on the poles throughout the town, which looks very nice. And Sherry Ty from the Hula Bar, her and her husband, Randy, are going to donate 100 masks. They can be used for the poll workers and whatever. I know we're not going to use 100 masks, but the rest, we'll give them to the department, and they can use them. And Raymond, if you need any, I know you said you had some at the fire station, but there'll be 100 of them donated, and I thank her for that also.
Right now,
The last thing I have, last thing I have is when do we want to start the parking back up, like business district, being that they're pretty much open, the 2-hour parking?
Do we want to wait till the governor declares it green, hopefully Friday? Or do we want to, just start doing it now, Dave? It's up to you as the mayor. I don't have a problem with it.
All right, well, I'll see what happens Friday, see what what the governor says, and we'll go from there, and I'll have Annette walk around and give all the businesses, a warning that we're starting to back up again. And the same way with street sweeping throughout the town. I don't know if we want to wait to the middle of June or we want to start it now.
what do you think about for the beginning of it when we ramp this back up to come up with, instead of tagging the cars, she just puts a note on them that says that, you know, starting this date, this is going to become a citation.
Right.
I was gonna suggest
I
that, giving them
would do that.
warnings.
That's
a good
going to be
idea.
the easiest, most efficient way to get the word out that we're citing again.
Right.
You know
A
what?
little pre-printed card.
We could go ahead and say as of June 5th. I think by then we should probably be open, God willing. Maybe we should just say now that like on June 5th, things will, you know, they'll give everybody an ample period of time that June 5th we will start.
Okay.
We could also write a statement, a short statement up and put that around in various ways that we have of communicating, Facebook pages, website, things like that. 'Cause
That's what I'm saying.
I'll put it in a
statement.
newsletter.
Yeah, and do that also, but I
I
don't
would
know.
still suggest give them a couple weeks to get used to it again, because there's still a lot of people working from home.
Well, that's why I'm saying.
I will.
Yeah, I wonder if we should have some exceptions, like the small streets like North Avenue or Parker or Union or wherever they're having parking problems, maybe extend it for them.
The problem is, if you extend it for them, then everybody else is going to start wanting extensions.
Right, true.
You can also
I'll
send
start-
out the street. You can also send out the street sweeper, and what streets they can get and what parking spots they can get. They get. Now we can worry about the tickets and citations and the warnings in a month or so.
Well,
What I'll do is
We started
I'll
that.
do
We
is
talked
I'll
to AJ.
this district, and the first round will be a warning, and then when the news comes out, it'll be in the newsletter because everybody gets it. Then we will start. So that'll be probably about 2-3 weeks for the
so
residents.
when's the newsletter come out?
Probably
It'll be
second
out the
week in
first-
June, maybe.
Probably first week in June, Dave, we're trying for.
Oh, the
When,
first week?
Sylvia?
Okay.
First week in June. So do we want to say June 10th? Or, I don't have a calendar in
Wait
front
a
of me.
minute. The articles are due on June 1st. I don't think the newsletter is going to be out in the first week of June.
Next week is June.
What?
Why don't we do it the 15th of June? Give it a little extra time. I don't know what their schedule's like.
Yeah, it'll be June 15th, the middle of the month. That's a Monday.
All right. So
Well,
we can,
Donald has his hand up. He might have.
well, let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Let's go with
About the
June
newsletter.
15th. Okay, that'll give ample time for people to know about it, that we can put it out on the web pages and things, and people have, it's almost 20 days, well, 15 days to get prepared for it. Does that work
Right.
for you, David?
Yes, and I'll put an article in the newsletter.
Okay, all right.
Just want to
Let's use
make
that.
sure you guys realize, you know, I'm just thinking about this now, that when we're finally green, there are still going to be a lot of people who are not going to go back to work. This working at home thing may become, you know, not everybody, but a lot of people are going to continue to work from home, is what I'm understanding. Like the businesses just aren't going to have them come back.
Well,
So,
we'll have to play it by ear with that and see what happens. We can readjust things, but let's stick with that plan of June 15th and see what happens.
Was this for business district or business district and residential for
Everywhere.
enforcement?
Well,
The business district, we could start first.
we'll start in the business district first. I think that's a good idea. What
I
the
mean,
mayor has.
Because I think it's still a little early to start enforcing street cleaning on residential streets. At least enforcing the parking, the no parking. I don't think, like Ray suggested, just having the guys clean the streets they can get, I think is maybe a good way to transition. But I think June 15th is a little early for residential.
That's whatever the board decides, I'll do. That's why I'm asking.
Here's my suggestion. June 15th is residential. Let AJ and them start doing the street sweeping. Don't issue citations. Then let's see what he tells us after a week or two of how it is affecting them doing their job on the street sweeping. And then we can revisit that.
Dave and I met with AJ last week,
Mhm.
and we told him to start doing that. To start just as they can, to get out there and to do it, you know, go around the cars. That we're not doing any enforcement, but to just clean as they can.
Okay.
Why can't we do something like that on the Facebook page or the website? And just say, hey, we're resuming street sweeping and we're not citationing right away, but start getting in the habit, because pretty soon we are going to start giving citations, and we're giving you 3-4 weeks notice, so people start getting back into the habit of it. And you know, if there's an extenuating circumstance that someone can't get it moved, I'm sure if they brought the ticket down to the police chief or the mayor and said, hey, I just couldn't get it moved, I'm sure it would be worked out.
We'll work it out, yes.
All right, let's work with that and not enforce the street sweeping tickets or anything in the residential area, and go with June 15th in the business district. Does that work for you,
All right.
Mayor?
Yeah, that's all I have, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Council reports. Let's just go around here. Let's start with Mr. Matlin.
right,
Pat, do you
thank
have
you.
anything?
I already said what I had to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Matlin.
Thank you. Couple things. The hanging baskets that were scheduled for last Wednesday, I talked to Angela and then with Jerry. Those are rescheduled to be delivered tomorrow, I believe. I see that Angela's on here. I don't know if she has a updated time, because I think that AJ and the crew will be able to help get them up. So Angela, if you have that, let me and Jerry know. And Jerry, I think we talked last week. We're good to go with the watering cart and everything with Darren, and
Yep.
That should be good. And the water line behind the Doughboy should be working. The water line by the gazebo should be up and working now. Thanks to the streets crew for fixing that. And then I had a few general public works updates. Jerry talked about Center Avenue and Second Avenue being completed. We also got the landscaping, the landscaping installations complete at the Doughboy and around the Borough Building, and at the pylon coming into town from Penn Hills, from Sandy Creek, near off the rails. Everyone from council saw the photos, and I think a lot of people in town have probably seen the landscaping, especially yesterday, and I think it turned out really well. So thanks to Resnick for a great job, and they'll continue to maintain it the rest of the year. Thanks to Matt and Jerry for helping get the bids out for that. There were some maintenance items the streets department's been working on. We had a list that we compiled, talked about previously. I know they've done some seeding at Railroad Park, grass seed. They did some seeding and aerating up at Cribbs Field right before that reopened. I know they've cleaned some sidewalks near the pavilion. Corrected a safety issue on Arch Street near Riverbank Park. So I think they're going through the list of things and making some progress there. Jerry, I don't know if you have any other updates from AJ on any of those items on the list. Those are the ones that I had.
Nothing on that list. as far as updates. I don't think they're working through them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
they're doing a great job, by the way.
yeah,
doing
they are doing a very good job. And like Jerry mentioned, he and I met with AJ last week about a number of issues. The one thing, Jerry, I don't know if you have an update. There was talk of them possibly replacing part of that sewer line on First Street before their First Street paving. I don't know if there's been any movement on that, or if we're still.
I'll check with AJ tomorrow. I don't know if he's gotten done with that yet or not.
Okay.
But they're working on that, trying to get an idea of what's going on with the sewer line underneath First Street before the paving begins, so that we're not cutting fresh asphalt.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if we can do that and it makes sense, I think we should definitely try to do that. The other thing we met about was that Jerry brought up with me was possibly we have, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, Jerry, but the Peterbilt truck that the public works crew uses, pretty big, needs a CDL, and AJ is the only one that can drive it. It can be kind of cumbersome on some of the tiny streets, so they don't use it a whole lot. And we're looking at possibly selling that, as well as the F550. And since that engine is, you said the warranty's up.
Yeah, so we got the F550 that we have. I can't remember off the top of my head what year it is. I think it's an 09.
Yeah.
About a year and a half ago, the motor blew up. At that point, it was worthless without a motor. We ended up replacing the motor with a rebuilt Ford motor that came with a 2-year warranty. That's about 6 months from being over. When we first decided to do this, the intention of doing this was to do it and then drive it for a year and a half and try to sell it while it was still good, so that we didn't have to do it again. We're about 6 months away from that. So what we met about was selling the Peterbilt and the 550 and replace it with one 550 or equivalent truck. So we would take the street screw down to 2 trucks with F350 and then a new one. And we kind of talked about doing 2 trucks, but then after talking to AJ, he thought that it would be a better use of the money to kind of hold on to it and perhaps use it to replace some of their older equipment that they really didn't necessarily need 2 trucks or 3 trucks. And that if it came time during the winter that they did, then we can always bounce around the idea of getting something that's less money just for plowing, or we can kind of cross that bridge when we get down to it, but to try to consolidate down to 2 trucks. Yeah,
so we met with AJ and got his feedback on what kind of attachments and features he would need, and I think there's nothing too out of the ordinary. So I think we're all in agreement that would be a good way to go if we can get a good rate on a new truck, and so we'll be looking into. Jerry's looking into the cost for.
Yeah, right now where we're at is that AJ's working with the company that he wants to do the build out. Once I get those specs and I know because the trucks that you get come with different frame lengths and a lot of different variations, I need to know how he wants it spec'd out before I can go figure out the pricing for the rest of it. So he's working on that. Once he has the specs, then we can figure out a total price for the truck and the build out, and we'll bring it back to council. As a side note, the F350, which was the last truck that we bought, we just paid off this year. So we currently don't know anything on the trucks that we have. And the Peterbilt, we're still trying to figure out, because our Peterbilt is an older truck, but there's a couple things that make it more valuable because it's before the changes in the diesel emission standards. So it's kind of a valuable truck as far as that goes. And we've got next to no miles and no hours on it. So it's tough to compare because all the ones that are for sale are beat to death. So it's tough to tell what ours is worth because everything else is all beat up. So we're trying to figure that out. We're trying to figure out what our F-550 is worth. We're hoping that between the two that we might be looking at $40,000 or so in value, conservatively, I think. So that would go toward the purchase of the new truck.
Yeah, I did some searching too, and I couldn't find any comparable vehicles. Like you said, they're all beat up or they're all a lot older. So there's that. I think that's. I don't think there was anything else from our meeting. That was all I had in my notes, Jerry.
Yeah, I think that's right.
The only other thing I was going to ask about is, what do you think about doing like a really brief summary, like Public Works monthly report that would just, we don't need to get into daily stuff or routine maintenance, but you know, any major stuff they've done or that they're going to be working on in the next month that we know about.
Yeah.
Just to, I think it would just help so council's aware, so maybe other departments or other things going on in the borough. We don't, you know, we don't have any miscommunication about what they might be doing or what, if there's a contractor doing something or, you know, Dave or Ray or someone else has something coming up that, you know, that's going to interfere. So
yeah, that's not a problem. I'll talk to AJ. He was for a while doing daily reports, so that'll actually be less work than what he was doing. But if he can give us a summary of what they've done and some big stuff that they have upcoming, I think it would be useful for council.
yeah, I mean, if he's doing daily or weekly reports like that for you, I don't have a problem with that. I think that's fine. But maybe just for council's purposes and for sharing with the public once a month, you know, just a monthly report that touches on, you know, some of either the big stuff or the things out of the ordinary, maybe stuff that they only do once or twice a year, that sort of thing.
Yep.
So, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Lealbo, what do you have?
I have, just real brief, it's nothing really with parks. For one thing, I don't know if anybody else got the email from Dale Elglass. He's from Vitalent, which is the blood bank. But anyhow, Oakmont is having a community blood drive June 30th, and they extended it to the Verona Borough too. You know, anybody who donates blood, there's a real significant need right now, so they're asking. Saturday, June 30th at the Redeemer Lutheran Church in their fellowship hall, and it's from 9 a.m. till 2:30. And they're suggesting you can go online and make an appointment ahead of time. So you can be seen there. Parks, playground should be started soon. I didn't get a date yet when the mulching will begin, but hopefully soon. I'll talk with Matt on further on that. And he's got in contact with Mark Ford, and we're on the list to have our parks. So once the playgrounds can open, hopefully they'll be ready in time. I did print out some of the CDC guidelines for parks and recs. I have them laminated. I just need to get them down to behind at all the parks. I have about 8 copies. We can do it different dates. It's just general and what makes sense, even like for with the farmers market, you know, just social distance. If you're sick, don't go to the parks, that kind of thing like that. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Carpenter.
Okay, thank you. Well, there hasn't been a whole lot of things going on with ordinances since the last meeting. I do understand that the courts are going to be opening up on June 1st, which is next Monday. So I have talked to Mr. Alexander earlier today about, I guess we have to refile some of the stuff. As far as I know, the Rivertown is on the schedule for August sheriff's sale. So there's that. And we're also going to be rescheduling the demo hearing that we were going to have for, I believe it was 899 4th. We're going to schedule that for July 14th. So we're not going to have it in June, July 14th, I believe it's 6:30. unless Craig has a different idea about what time he wants to have that. Ordinances that we're continuing to work on are for the short-term rentals, also for animal control. We do have an animal control ordinance already, and we might want to add a little something about feeding feral cats, I think. Let's see, civil suit, sheriff sales, demo hearing. Regarding the fireworks, I just want to direct people to E-Code 360. And you can go in the Verona section of E-Code 360 and you can find what our ordinance is. It's pretty much what the state says, like we talked about before, and I will try to do a newsletter article. I wanted to ask council if you guys got the emails about the local government academy training that they're offering for free. I think they're on like Thursdays through the summer. And if anybody is interested in taking those, Mike and Dave, did you get them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I got
I signed up for all of them. I don't know that I can make all of them, but they're free. Could be some really good information about how to deal with running a borough during the pandemic. So I signed up for them. I also wanted us to talk about whether or not we're going to consider opening our meeting or having our meetings at the council chambers. And if so, how would you like to do that? When would you like to consider that? Even if we're in the green, I think we would have to limit the number of people from the public coming in. We'd have to figure out how we could sit so that we're 6 feet apart, like some people might have to sit in front of the dais at a table. Also wanted to discuss after the voting on June 2nd at the Borough Building in the Borough Chambers, does anybody feel we need to invest in them doing, you know, that sanitizing, cleaning that they do? You know, I have my own opinions, but I'm not saying this right now to say my opinion. I just would like to hear, since it's a workshop, if we could discuss both of those issues, both having in-person meetings and how would we go about doing that, and what do we want to do after June 2nd in terms of cleaning the chamber.
My feeling is we have to look at, for the cleaning of the chambers afterwards, we'd have to see what it would cost if it's really needed.
The CDC released a thing that said that it doesn't live on surfaces, and that it's not contagious on surfaces like they thought it was. I don't know that. I mean, I don't know what it's going to cost. If we're talking a little bit of money, maybe, but I mean, if it's going to be a lot of money, I don't know that it's worth it.
Dave Recupero, I think that you had said something about somebody had came and sanitized the police cars at one point.
Yeah, Service Master serviced the local departments, Verona, Oakmont, Penn Hills. They didn't charge though. They cleaned them when this first came out, the virus.
Yeah,
So
I'm not
if you
sure
do get
that.
a price,
Oh, sorry.
if you do get a price, give them a call, you know, first and see what they're gonna, you know, charge us.
I'm not sure that.
Is there something in
I'm not
between?
sure.
Is there something in between rather than going full service to just simply sanitizing, wiping things down with antiseptic or whatever? I mean,
I think that I'm not sure that we would need to do it either. I just wanted to bring it up for discussion. I think even if the virus were to be on any of the surfaces, if you closed the door and didn't walk in the room for 3 days, it would all die. So I haven't heard any surface that harbors this virus for longer than 3 days. So I just wanted to say that, but I don't know what we want to do in terms of opening and having in-person meetings in June.
I had stated that I would like to do the next council meeting in June. In the chambers, we have to look at how that can be done onto the green. Hopefully we're opening the green, and let's see what that allows us to do, and with the distancing and all that. And once that happens, then we can get a better idea. So my hope is that we have our next council meeting in chambers. We'll see.
Right. So what I'm asking right now at a workshop where we get to discuss things is precisely what do we want to do to make that happen in a safe way. My ideas are that we eliminate a couple of the pews so we can separate the other pews and the chairs more. We put markings on the pews that are every 6 feet so people know where they can sit, and that we require masks, and that half of us are gonna have to sit on the floor by a table. We can't sit next to each other up on the chamber.
I realize that, but we have to look and see how to do that. And I will look into that so that we can have the next meeting there. That was my hope, and I said that at the last meeting.
Okay, but I'm asking for us to discuss that and figure it out now.
Nancy, we have to go up and physically, somebody has to go up and physically sit down and go through that and see how to do it. We know what we got to do, be 6 feet apart. Now it's how do we get the things to work in the chamber itself? Without being in the chamber, how are you going to do that?
Well, I'm offering some suggestions right here.
Well, I just said, that's why we need to go to one or two of us need to go to the chamber and figure it out. And then send it out to everybody and say, here's what we've come up with.
I think part of it too is that we need to see what's going to happen with the governor, because if he puts us to green and lifts that 25-person requirement, then probably fine to just do it, I would think. So I think it kind of depends on what the governor says, right?
And that's what I said in the last meeting. We have to wait to see what the governor says and what the guidelines are so that we can follow them. I don't want to set up a bunch of stuff and then find out that half of it we don't have to do.
Right. Well, is there a reason why we need to meet the June, I forget what the date is.
9th.
The June 9th regular business meeting is, I feel like the Zoom meetings, I agree they're not ideal. It would be better if we could all meet in person for just general communication, but would it hurt to have one more meeting like this and see where we're at, and then, make a decision going forward? Or
I don't have a problem with that. I'm just trying to get us back to somewhat normalcy as quickly as we can. That's all.
Is it this Friday, the announcements coming out?
Should be this Friday. They should announce this Friday who's going to go to green the following Friday.
Why don't we make a decision after this Friday?
So one other thing that you might want to consider when you do make your decision is the possibility of a hybrid meeting where some members of the public can be on Zoom. The public's limited from coming into the building while the mayor and council is there. I can tell you that I do represent one community that's never had anything other than a live meeting through all this. They've had, I think, 3 live meetings now, and even a special, two regular meetings, 2 workshop meetings, and a special meeting, I believe. And what they do is, it's almost impossible to get 6 feet apart, but they do spread you out one every other chair. And then they move people down further, because obviously by the time you get to every other chair, there's extra people left over. So you put some seats down below. That's one option. But obviously, like Pat said, you got to get in there and engineer it to see what you're going to do and how you're going to do it and when you're going to do it.
Well, I agree with Craig's suggestion or his mention of other, municipalities that do a hybrid meeting. I think that's a good idea, and I was going to suggest that because if we do start meeting in person, there may be some people that don't feel comfortable meeting, in person in a group, in an indoor room, and they might feel more comfortable joining via, video or Zoom or whatever it may be. So, and I think we've gotten more regular participants on the Zoom meetings, people that maybe didn't participate before in the council meetings that, it'd be nice to continue to allow them to participate that way. So
I like the hybrid meeting too. I have a question though. If we did have a hybrid, would all council members have to be in person, or could some be on Zoom and some be in person?
As long as the emergency declaration is in effect, any or all of council can be on video.
So there'll still be a quorum.
Right.
Okay.
Once the emergency declaration is rescinded, then the provisions of the borough code are put back into place, and there has to be a physical quorum present before anybody can participate remotely. And there are limited reasons why a person can participate remotely, like a job commitment or things like that.
That could be another way that you can look at every other's. If there was 3 of us that were there or 4 of us there and 3 of us online, you have every other seat possibly too.
Greg, I have one question. If we go to green, does that eliminate the order by the governor's, the emergency order?
I don't believe it will. I don't believe it will be rescinded until he actually rescinds it. And green doesn't mean go. I mean, it's green with restrictions. You're not open back up until you're completely open back up. It's a 4-step plan. It's not a 3-step plan.
All right.
So I just want to point out that in the question and answer that somebody from the audience was also asking about, can we do both, with the Zoom as well as being in person. I don't know if you guys read that or not. I just wanted to point that out.
Well, we'll have to work on that and figure out the best way to do that. And I don't have a problem with Zoom and not some people in chambers. So let's start working a plan. I'll get with Jerry and we'll come up with some type of plan after the governor gives us his update so that we have a little better understanding on where we can go. Okay?
All right, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Forback.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Police and Fire Committee met last Friday afternoon. Thank you. And there was 2 issues we discussed. One dealing with the fire trucks and the insurance that the borough has on these trucks. We're not sure if the current insurance is for replacement value or for just the current value of these vehicles. And the difference is could be vast. I think a new vehicle could be up over $500,000, where current value could be 1/10 of that. If something would happen to these vehicles, we'd be stuck with quite an expense to replace that. We will go. Jerry and I were going to go visit Ewing's and find out what is our coverage. What are the options and what are the costs are for actually going to replacement value for these vehicles. We feel that it's much better to go with the replacement value at this point. Jerry, anything else you want to add to that?
No, I reached out to Kevin Ewing to see if he's available Thursday or Friday. As soon as I have a time, I'll let you know. We'll sit down with him either at the borough building or at his office or whatever, and figure out what that looks like.
Yeah, we'll finish with that. And we'll give you a report at the next meeting on where we stand with that. The second issue is on the police vehicles. As you know, part of the financing for some of the salaries for the police was sort of that Jerry had put together was to possibly sell some vehicles, replace some vehicles, and use some of the money for funding other for the salaries and other issues. Since there's money in the budget now for a police vehicle, is actually a very great time for buying vehicles, whether it's through the auction or through dealerships or whatever. We felt it might be a really good time to explore purchasing a new vehicle. But with that, the existing vehicles, obviously, starting with the Crown Vic, we're not sure, that's about ready to be shot and put out the pasture, but it's still functional. What we're going to do, and Jerry's going to look into this, is see if there's any good used vehicles that are good deals on used vehicles that we could possibly use to replace the Crown Vic, so that could be used for net and for the code enforcement. Now this plan is kind of fluid, so we're still trying to explore this. I'm just telling to everybody about this now. The other is to sell the white unmarked Explorer, because that they would be able to get a lot more. We'd get the most money for that. That's our understanding. So we'd have a better cash to be able to purchase any other vehicles. We propose to keep the black Tahoe and the silver unmarked Explorer, and with the proceeds and with the budget is possibly buy a new Explorer, new marked Explorer. That is kind of what we put together for our plan. Jerry, do you want to add anything to that?
I think, though, it's like you said, it's kind of fluid. The original plan, when I first proposed everything, was to get rid of the unmarked white Explorer that Mark uses and get rid of the Crown Vic, and have Annette and Mark use the unmarked silver police car when necessary. It was discussed, and we determined that since the Crown Vic is not really worth anything more than maybe $500, to just take the stickers and lights off of that, let them use that basically until it dies. The fluid part of that would be we keep that and then kind of keep a lookout for something like a used police car from a township that flips them every couple years, that we could buy it cheap and end up using it, and have Mark and Annette use that. Get rid of the one that Mark's using now, and then purchase a new one. I think it's important that regardless of what Annette and Mark drive, it be unmarked. I'm not comfortable, and council's discussed this as well, having Mark or Annette in anything in a marked police car. It's important that that is not the case. It's not safe. So that's very important that we keep them in something unmarked. So
this is sort of a fluid plan, and Jerry's going to be looking at things. I'm going to be looking at some things, and we'll report back on that also. Is there anybody?
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
I wish you would have involved me in this, being the mayor. As far as a used police car, they are high miles. They're constantly running. I would highly advise, and I don't want a used car. We've dealt with Moss Side Specialties where we got our cars before. They were good cars, but they were beat. Just like the ones we have, that's what you're getting. So we might as well keep ours if you're going to look into a used car.
yeah,
If we're going to go a used car, I would like to. What's that?
I agree with you, and I think our intention wasn't to get a used car for the police, but just for code enforcement and parking enforcement, we would get something used for them. But I don't think we have any intention of buying a used car for the police department, because I agree, they get beat on, and we need something that's reliable, which is the reason why we keep buying new stuff. So I agree. I don't think the Explorer was ever intended to be a used car.
Yeah, I mean, I just wish that I would have been, notified, what you were doing on the cars in my department. So,
well, maybe you are involved. That's why we're bringing it up at this workshop now. I mean, we just met on Friday. So that's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Forbeck, thank you. Mr. Suchovich.
Talked to Jerry today. The 2018 budget
Audit.
was, what's that?
Audit.
The 2018 audit, I'm sorry, thank you. The 2018 audit was filed. They're working on the 2019 audit. Hopefully within a month and a half to 2 months, that'll be done and we'll be all caught up. Jerry's working with them, pushing them to get that all done. I know it's been a long time. It's been a long road for whatever reason, but we're finally to the point where we're just about caught up. So hopefully by, you know, like I said, they didn't give us an exact timeline, but within a month and a half, we'll be all caught up with the audits, and then we can have them done from the future by March or whenever.
April. Yes, I had a conversation. We're just going to keep working forward. We're rolling directly into 19. In fact, everything that they requested as far as documentation for 18, I sent them 19 with it. So they have pretty much everything that they need just to roll right in and get it done. So that's the intention. We're not going to pause the engagement. We're just rolling right into it. So we should be done in plenty of time. We're putting that time frame on it internally, but we're not really sharing that with the auditor. We want it done sooner. So we're on it.
Other than that, I did call Mr. Forbeck and explain about the insurances and all that, because I've talked to a lot of other fire companies about replacement cost and current value. We could really get the shaft if one of our trucks would blow up, or, you know, you go around, you know, a wreck or something, you know, we could be out of fire engine you get $60,000 and it costs you $550, $600 to replace it. So I think that's a move in the right direction. I think it's good that we'll be working with the police committee on the financing of the vehicles. And I think it's a good thing that we keep upgrading our police force's cars. I think it's a good thing that we're able to get a couple a new one here, and every what is it, 2 years now or something, like we're trying.
We try to do it every 2 years. Yep.
Yeah. And you're right, they are, but you do not want to buy a used vehicle for a police, but I think the way that the plan is, it sounds like it's a good deal. That's my 2 cents worth on that. As far as the council meetings, I think we should just wait till the governor goes on and gives us our spiel on Friday and go from there. We can always set up another quick meeting like this and decide what we need to do. I agree also that the Borough Public Works Department is awesome. They're working diligently to get everything where it needs to be. Parks are looking good. They're finally opened up. So I thank everybody for their time they've put in, and I think everybody's given a good share. I know when the parks we opened, we had a little bit of an issue with the plugging of the parks, and a couple of people were a little upset. But oh well, what are you going to do? It is what it is. They're open now. So that's all I had to say. Thank you for everybody putting their time in.
Thank you. Mr. Provenza.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Pat. I attended yesterday the function. It was wonderfully done at the Doughboy, and I would really like to say a special thank you to a few people that helped put it together. Rhoda, our president of the Verona Historical Society, she did a wonderful job putting it together, along with our mayor, Dave, and also Frank Santucci did a great job. He's our historian, and he did a beautiful speech on the surviving veterans that we had there yesterday, which was really nice. And he spoke on World War II and on Vietnam. Also, this was in conjunction with 75 years that the World War II had taken place. It was a very touching, very memorable thing. And also, I want to thank Leo Bickert. He did a wonderful job of filming and doing the complete thing. He did a great job. And I just thank all of these people. It took time, it took work, and it was very well done. We had a beautiful crowd of people there, and I was proud to be there, to be a part of all of this. This is something that's very, very memorable. And the other thing is, many people complimented Mr. Rezzik's landscaping company doing such a beautiful job of beautifying our town. He did a very nice job, and I also thank him for that. And I do want to just remind everybody again, it's very, very important that we get your articles by Monday, June 1st. As soon as we get them, we want to get these things to the printer right away, because I don't know how busy they are. It is graduation time. So these things need to go there. And also, in closing, I want to make a reminder. Please don't forget to vote, folks, on Tuesday, June 2nd. And as it was mentioned, we only have one voting precinct, and that will be at the Borough Building. The doors will open at 7 a.m. and they will be open until 8 p.m. So please, folks, please don't forget to vote. That is important. I thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. County, do we have any comments from the public?
I think Craig, did you want to talk before we go to that?
I just wanted to update Mayor and Council. Jerry and I had gotten together last Friday to review the county hauling contract and the current deficiencies, and we talked to Marcia while we were doing that. And what we learned was that things have gotten demonstratively better. It's not a good word. They've gotten better. But there's still misses, there's still issues. And what we agreed to do was to schedule a meeting with the county hauling folks over Zoom or in person if they're willing to do it. But I did it over Zoom with another community that I represent, and it went very well. And get their commitments on paper as to the remaining things that they really have to pick up on to continue to do business in the borough of Verona. And I contacted Dave Matlin about that today as well, since he was the one that gave me the reminder about getting together and getting the letter out. So I suggested to Dave that perhaps he be on the call with Jerry and me, and we're going to shoot for Thursday to get that done. So I just wanted Mayor and Council to be aware of that. And I did get pictures of that doughboy, and I think it looks fantastic. So I agree with what Sylvia says on that. But that's what I wanted to report on. That's why I wanted to be present here tonight to talk about the county hauling.
Thank you.
Before you start with any other public comment, I don't know if you guys saw this in the Q&A. Someone is asking, please advise the status of Peach Alley now that the mayor has added the paving of the street to RCC. This street has been ignored for 12 years. It should move to the top. So I don't know if that person has their hand up or not, but I just wanted to mention that that has been asked from the audience.
That was also discussed last year, along with Sylvan Way, where the Children's Center was, and East Railroad, the dead end part. Those three places were talked about.
Yeah, and somebody earlier in that Q&A part was asking about the road from Sheridan down to the public dock.
So, yeah, I saw that question, and they asked about a priority paving list, and that's something I've been working on. It's still in progress, but I'm going to put together a roads inventory. This is something I brought up a couple months ago at a meeting, and I've discussed with Matt. I'm going to review it with him and Jerry and AJ once I have it together, and it'll basically allow us. Mike's even offered to help with some of the assessments, but basically I'll put the list together of every every section of road, and we'll give it a rating, and we'll give it a traffic score, and we'll be able to easily identify what, you know, based on X amount of funding available in a given year, it can help council prioritize which sections of road or alleys or whatever, you know, need to be paved, and hopefully it's something we can continue to build on year after year. So just so everyone's aware, I'm still working on that. I know that this year, I think, Jerry, that most of our paving projects are pretty much set. So I don't know that it's going to affect anything this year, especially with the COVID-19 affecting the finances. But hopefully by next year, we can start to use that to budget for paving. So just an update there.
And AJ and Matt are working on possibly using the COG equipment to do some of the smaller roads and like that. Part of the deal that with some of that, a lot of the towns that are working together are basically offering up their crew. So like East Deer would give us their guys for a couple days, but in return, if they needed our guys, we'd send them our guys. Something that we brought up, that Matt brought up, and I think Matt brought up to Craig, I'm not sure if they talked about this yet, was the possibility of there being issues with union rates, because not all municipalities pay the same. So if we have East Deer's guys come here and they're making more money than our guys, do we have issues with that? So that's kind of the stuff that we're talking about, working out, make sure that we're not going to end up getting ourselves into a grievance situation over this. So we have to kind of cross those T's and dot those I's before we move forward, but we're working on that possibility as well.
Jerry, I think one thing has to be brought out, that this equipment, everybody thinks just, you know, a couple of people. It takes 8 people to run this equipment.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why the delay in getting the stuff through the COG is because of the number of people that are needed to run all the equipment.
Yeah, from what I understand, of all the municipalities that participated, I think East Deer is really the only one that's actually been able to use it. But, you know, this is all, we're all learning how this works, because this is all new to all these towns, and none of these towns really have large streets that guys, and so we have to figure out how this is going to work before we jump in with both feet. But we are working on it.
If the East Deer guys are helping out Verona, and Verona's helping out East Deer, wouldn't East Deer pay their workers their rate when they help down here, and Verona would pay its workers their rate when they're helping up there, similar to how the police back up each other all up and down the valley?
That's the thought, but the question would be, if we send our guys to East Deer to help them, should they get paid what East Deer guys are making?
Well, when a valley police department backs up somebody upstream, they don't get a higher rate.
I agree.
That's under mutual aid agreements.
Yeah, but that also, you're talking about one call that could be anywhere from 5 minutes to maybe a couple hours, instead of sending somebody there for 3 days.
Understood. Okay.
Okay. Are there any comments from the
We have some
public?
public comments. We have Angela's first.
Okay.
Go ahead, Angela.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, good evening. I just wanted to thank Borough Council for the wonderful job they did picking Resnick to do the landscaping, like everybody's been mentioning. I've had at least 15, 20 people stop me and tell me how wonderful everything looks, especially the Doughboy. The Doughboy is a complete transformation, and it just turned out wonderful. And Resnick had a lot of good ideas. I know the Garden Club had input on it also, and the borough, the council, Dave Matlin, you all did a wonderful job. It looks amazing, and they got that done very quickly. I'm very happy. We're all very pleased. I also wanted to send out a big thank you to Sylvia Provenza, who got all our flowers donated from the Home Depot. We were able to plant our entire Veterans Wall and the perennials in front of the Doughboy. That was all completely donated by Home Depot. We're going to send them a letter to thank them. and Sylvia made those calls and made that happen. So I just wanted to put a thank you out to her. Also, the baskets are coming tomorrow. The window they gave me was between 10 and 2. Tomorrow morning, they're going to call me and try to narrow that window down a little bit. They said they won't really know an exact time until they start loading up the truck. So do I contact you, Dave, and let you know once I get a closer, more narrow window, and then you can let the street guys know? Because we saw AJ today, we gave him that window, but I told him that as soon as I could narrow it down, I think I said I would let you know, and then maybe you can let Jerry know. I don't know how that works or how you want me to contact you. So just let me know if you want me to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have Jerry's number, but if you relay it to me, I'll make sure Jerry gets it to AJ.
Okay, yeah, and as soon as I find out, I'll let you know. It'll be some point tomorrow morning. They're gonna, try to narrow that window down a little bit. And I think that AJ said that if those baskets come anytime after 12, they're gonna have to wait till the following day to be hung, because it takes quite a bit of time to get those all hung up. So if they come in the morning, that's great. That means they can be hung, I guess. But if they come after 12, just expect that they're not going to get hung tomorrow. They'll be hung on Thursday. That's what he stated. So, which is fine. It's perfectly fine. And I think that's it. I thought I wanted to say one more thing. Oh, Jerry, tomorrow morning, I'm going to run the garden club check down to the borough for the cost of the baskets. I'm going to make our check payable to you guys, and then you can write a check out to Gumto.
That's fine.
Is that okay?
Do you have the invoice for Gumto?
Yeah, they emailed it to us about 2 months ago, and it's like 2456.20, something like that. Okay. I got it written down. Well, I'm going to get the check tonight. I'll just bring it down in the morning. But just to let you know, if you pay that soon, because if it's past 30 days, they're going to add a fee on.
We pay right away.
Okay, that's perfect. And that's it. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Yeah, hold on. I just wanted to also say, as long as we're thanking people, I want to thank Angela for taking the time with me to go shopping and pick up all the plants that Sylvia that Sylvia got donated from Home Depot. We had a good time. And
yes,
also,
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. Yes.
And also to thank all of the people in the garden club who did the actual planting, which is Angela, myself, Patty Tuminello, Marguerite Rafalco, I'm missing a couple. Rhoda Wharf, Denise, was Donald there?
Kimberly Roller, who is our new garden club member, was there.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks to everybody. Putting those perennials around the doughboy was not an easy task.
No, it wasn't. But it looks amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for your input, Angela, and the garden club on the landscaping contract, because that made a big difference.
It's beautiful. Thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, next is Joey Warren.
Go ahead, Joey.
Thank you. One question, one comment. I know last workshop meeting I'd asked about the earned income tax. I understand we'll be taking a hit. I didn't know if for March and April, if you had anything to share back as far as revenues go overall for the municipal revenue. That was the one question I did have. I know there's going to be hits. Clearly, you guys are looking at the assets for the sale and purchase of vehicles. Some of the timing's better for us for purchase or for sale right now, but I'm specifically curious about what hit we've taken year over year for revenue. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, Jerry, I think you're going to be able to answer that, but I just want to make one more comment before you go to that. The other thing was with polls being open, we have 3 precincts going to 1 polling station on June 2nd. We have the farmers market, which might be using also the borough building. And then in my opinion, as a resident, it doesn't matter if there are 2 of you guys there, or if there's 5 of you, or if it's full of 25 people. I think it's worth the cost, whatever it would be, for the cleaning of the municipal building. I understand you're going to be waiting for some of the governor's issued yellow to green, but as the solicitor said, green does not go. It's a 4-step. I think also to what possibly, I think Mr. Forbeck had mentioned, it might be just simply for surfaces just as a precaution, which I don't think will be as costly, but I just think for the safety of you guys, for the safety of the borough, team for anyone that visits in there and all the people that will be voting in and out by volume in the next few weeks. I think it would be an investment that I don't think cost should be considered. I think it's one of those things within the budget you might be able to find to make sure it's a safe place for you guys to return to work. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
As far as the budget, we did see a little bit of a drop for April. I'll have a full report on that at the next meeting once we see what May's numbers look like. But you know, there is a drop. We expected there to be a drop. We don't know what the rest of the year is going to look like. If it's going to try to rebound a little bit. You know, there's really no way to know. So I'll have a full report on that at the next meeting once we have May's numbers.
Jerry, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, is there anything that council will be considering for fee resolutions to maybe make increases in some of the things that we have within our municipalities for revenue?
To increase revenue?
Yeah, will you guys be taking a look at fee resolutions so that maybe for some of the things that maybe are outdated in price, that would be.
Yeah, so that's actually been in process. Nancy can speak on it a little bit. But.
Yeah, the ordinance committee, I'm glad you said that, Joey, to help me remember. We had started looking at some of the parking fines. Some of them are terribly low, and we were going to look at that and restructure those. And then, of course, the pandemic happened. But thank you for reminding me. We'll put that on the agenda for, and I didn't mention, our next meeting is going to be Monday, June 1st for the ordinance committee.
And just to be clear, my suggestion on taking a look was not specific to parking, just overall use of municipal resources. There are plenty of things that I think that maybe if revisited, you see or maybe outdated, but that's not just specifically to parking, though I understand.
No, I understand.
Just parking. The revamp is for occupancy permits, building permits, electric permits. It's actually, parking is, we have code enforcement working on this, so they're working on things way more than parking.
Well, yes. I trust you being creative. I just want to make the suggestion during public comment. Thank you, President.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the next one.
All right, next one is Trish Showalter.
Go ahead, Trish. You're muted, Trish.
Go ahead. Apologies. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to say again, thanks to council, especially Janet and Dave, for having the street crew attend to some long needed repairs in the park. On behalf of Rec Board and just the community, we're really pleased with that, and things are really starting to look really great. So thank you for getting those issues addressed. I did want to say that in regards to June meetings and voting, as well as Joey had mentioned, that some things to think about. I'm actually involved with reopening the labs at CMU, so I'm happy to help with that. But some basic things might include keeping doors and windows open, limiting one person at a time while voting, of course, using masks and whatnot, and possibly putting up some lines like the lines that were put at Verona to help with the lunch distributions to make sure people are staying 6 feet apart. So that was all I had. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
All right. And we have Donald Wharf. I'm not sure if this is Rhoda or Dawn. Nope, hold on.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Who's barking?
Dog.
Go ahead, Dawn.
That's Jess.
All right. All right. Well, can you mute yourself, Dave? Okay.
Okay, thank you. As the editor of the Verona newsletter, I'd like to reaffirm that June 1st is the correct date for the submission of articles. Now, normally I give a little cushion to that just in case someone discovers that they want to change a word or two, or maybe add something to their newsletter. So that cushion usually is extended maybe 4 or 5 days. Now, after that, I'm the proofreader. I'm the editor. I'm the proofreader editor. I collect the articles and I correct them for spelling and errors. Then it has to go on to the design or to the ads editor, Angela Acapini, and she has to check and make sure that all the ads have been paid for before that. And then it has to go to the design editor. So it takes a couple weeks usually to get everything done before it goes on to the printing phase. So what I'm saying, I guess, is that June 1st is the deadline for submission, but we may have several weeks, hopefully by the end of June, hopefully, we'll get it out to the printer and out to the mailing and into the hands of the Verona residents. And that's sort of an arbitrary thing that we do. We can't really set an exact date on that usually, but that's it in a nutshell. So that's the first thing I'd like to talk about. The second thing is, might the council consider posting some kind of a directional, informational sign in the windows of the precincts that will be closed, informing those voters who may show up and not have gotten the word through the accepted media that we use to go down to the borough and vote, so that they're not too confused. Now, some of the older people may not hear that information through the.
We're going to have signs at both polling places, laminated signs at both polling places saying all voting is at the borough.
Excellent. Okay, I appreciate that. That's what I was hoping you'd say. Thank you.
Yep.
That's about all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
That's all we have.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything? Okay.
I don't see anything in the question and answer.
Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make the motion, Pat.
Motion by Mrs. Provenza to adjourn, second by?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Matlin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any noes? There being no noes, motion passed. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you,
everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Good night.